All right, so today's quick question is going to deal with how can I kind of pace in relation to the course and exam description, units 1 through 3 for AP Lang, and still cover the essays one by one. Because it seems as though the course and exam description is meant to kind of intermix skills, like rhetorical analysis and argument together, and then argument and synthesis together, and things like that. So a lot of people who have kind of built their courses before the course and exam description around essay types, starting with either argument or rhetorical analysis or synthesis, are often asking this question, like, how can I kind of see if this jives or not? And so today, I'm going to just show you one way to consider approaching this in a manner that allows you to actually teach rhetorical analysis first, argument second, and synthesis third. And we're going to look at the first 3 units of the course and exam description to go over this. So we'll try to cover this as quickly as we can. And so as you'll notice on my screen, I have unit 1 of the course and exam description. And sure enough, you're going to notice that, of course, we're starting with rhetorical analysis because we have our rhetorical situation right here in our essential knowledge and whatnot. So we need to teach kids how to identify and describe components of the rhetorical situation. Now, what a lot of people, I think, potentially misunderstand is that you don't have to just keep these kind of skills in isolation based on these blue lines. And what I mean by there is it's not like I just teach this section and then I have a blue line, and then I teach this section and there's a blue line, and then I teach my kind of claims and evidence and there's my blue line and I'm done unit 1. What I actually like to do is I do like to teach my course rhetorical analysis, argument, and then synthesis. And I actually use the course and exam description to help guide me in doing that. And so what I do here is I will teach kids about the elements of the rhetorical situation. And then when they discuss this in class, what they'll be doing is they will actually go in and they will have to write about the author's purpose. But when the author's message and purpose. And sure enough, when they do that, please note that that's actually going to take care of identifying and explaining claims and evidence within an argument. Why? Because I'm saying, hey, identify the author's message and purpose. Give me the evidence of where that actually shows up. And sure enough, that's going to take care of the reading element here for claims and evidence. But it's rhetorical analysis. On top of that, right, we have this writing part that says develop a paragraph that includes a claim and evidence supporting the claim. Well, I actually in unit 1 might not require my kids to develop a full paragraph, but we're going to talk these out all the time. When I teach exigence and I ask my students to identify the exigence of a piece that they have read and then prove it with evidence, what they're actually doing is they are indeed developing a claim and then providing evidence for it. They're just talking about it instead of writing it. So could I easily make a writing assignment that says, hey, articulate one of the shared beliefs that the audience has and then provide evidence to prove such? Yeah, I can do that. I can create that writing assignment. I don't. I have the kids converse about it, and I just have them fill in graphic organizers instead of putting the whole paragraphs together. And the reason why is because I'm going to take care of the writing the paragraphs as I shift into Unit 2. So what does Unit 1 actually look like for me? Unit 1 for me looks like a study of the rhetorical situation, and I have kids making claims and providing evidence to say, hey, here's this part of the rhetorical situation, here's this part of the rhetorical situation. And then I will have kids identify the message and purpose and provide evidence for that. But at the end of Unit 1, I'm not giving a timed writing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give a test, and the way that my test works is it's going to be either my Challenger speech test, my post 9/11 speech test, or my JFK Rice University test. And the kids will read this reading selection, and then there will be question 1, which will say, okay, the context of the piece is most likely, and then there will be 5 multiple choice answers. And then the question 2 will say, okay, based on your answer to question 1, provide evidence that proves such. And then we'll go through all parts of the rhetorical situation. And that's going to be their test, where they have a multiple choice claim that they have to make. Okay, the exigence is this, the context is this, the speaker is this, the audience is this. And then they have to provide evidence from the text to match that up. And that's how I'm going to actually assess what would be called Unit 1. However, that's not where I stop, though. I actually keep going into the first part of Unit 2, because if you scroll down and you go to Unit 2, you're going to realize that after the rhetorical situation, the first part of what shows up here in Unit 2 is about making rhetorical choices. and that speakers make rhetorical choices. So this is where rhetorical analysis, as we see it on the exam, fits in perfectly. So I lay the foundation of Unit 1 with the rhetorical situation, and I have them articulating claims and messages and making claims about the elements of the rhetorical situation and providing evidence. So I'm fulfilling all of those skills, and then I'll give them, like I said, a scaffolded exam, and then I'll go into actually teaching them how to write a rhetorical analysis, because these are the rhetorical analysis writing skills that typically come with the rhetorical analysis essay. And so really for me, I'm actually treating units 1 and 2 as kind of like units 1.5. And so I'm combining elements of units 1 and units 2 to create my rhetorical analysis unit here that follows the course and exam description. And the reason why is because this is about analyzing rhetorical choices. So my students are not going to get their first rhetorical analysis timed writing until about this blue bar right here that you can see my cursor on. So what that means is that I have actually covered all of Unit 1 and part of Unit 2 before my kids get their first rhetorical analysis timed writing. And the reason why is because Unit 1 is about laying the foundation of the rhetorical situation, and you cannot do rhetorical analysis if you don't understand the rhetorical situation. It's just impossible. Well, if it's not impossible, it's just really hard. Okay, so I did my first timed writing, which shows up in the middle of what would be deemed Unit 2, and then I actually make this shift to argument. And you're going to notice that that's very easy to do here, because we have identify and explain claims and evidence within an argument, and we start talking about how evidence is used to either prove points or clarify or set a mood or associate, things like that. So we also talk about evidence and evidence selection, and this is where we deal with argument in full. And you'll also notice that we have the thesis that shows up here, so my kids are going to be learning about thesis statements. Now, if I'm teaching rhetorical analysis above the paragraph form up here, I will actually teach my kids how to write a thesis. So notice it's not inappropriate for me to dip into this skill right here, see this essential knowledge, I should say, for this skill of writing about the thesis, right? I can dip into that with this, even though I'm covering this to get to my rhetorical analysis essay. So really, I can move these skills and EKs around. I just don't want you to think that you're limited to these kind of blue lines here that are listed in the course and exam description. So I'll teach argument, and I'll have my students writing arguments and doing things like that. But I'm not giving them a timed writing right after I cover up to this blue line in Unit 2. Why? Because if I keep scrolling to Unit 3, there's a lot in Unit 3 that I also have to cover with argument foundationally. And so now what I'm going to do is, before I give them an argument timed writing, you're going to notice that this top part deals a lot with commentary, which is fine, but also source material. So you're like, well, that's synthesis, Tim. Well, yeah, I'm going to skip the synthesis part for now, but I am going to go down and I'm going to use a lot of the reasoning and organization EKs here as I continue to teach my argument unit. So as I continue to teach my argument unit, I'm going to use these kind of reasoning and organization EKs, and I'll teach my kids about these, and then we'll finish argument, and then I'll give them a timed writing, and then I will go back and I will teach argument again, but I will do it through a synthesis lens. So I'm going to go back and revisit everything that we did with argument, but in synthesis, and the reason why is because synthesis is just an argument, as but the sources are provided for you. And so now my units 1 through 3 might not be as, I guess, boxed as, hey, at the end of Unit 1, I give a timed writing. At the end of Unit 2, I give a timed writing. At the end of Unit 3, I give a timed writing. The way that it actually works for me is I'm going to have Unit 1.5 timed writing, and then I'm going to go from Unit 2 to Unit 3 for argument and do a timed writing in the middle of what's deemed Unit 3, because I've combined Units 2 and 3. And then at the end of Unit 3, I'm going to teach the synthesis side of things, and I'll give them a synthesis timed writing. So technically, I've given 2 timed writings in Unit 3, and then my first timed writing shows up at Unit 1.5. And you might say, Tim, how long does it take for you to cover those first 3 units? And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm typically not done with the first 3 units until the end of November or beginning of December. And that's okay, because if you lay the foundations of rhetorical analysis, argument, and synthesis, what's going to happen at that point is you are going to be able to fly through the rest of the units, because the rest of the units just go back and build upon all of the skills that are foundationally laid in units 1 through 3 for rhetorical analysis, argument, and synthesis. So that's basically how I do it. I'm going to ask that you click like and subscribe, and the reason why is because that's the easiest way that you can support the Garden of English. But there are other ways that you can also support the Garden of English, and one of them is just by following us on Facebook, or following us on Instagram, liking us on Facebook, and things like that. We also sell a bunch of merch at thegardenofenglish.com, so I'm going to ask that you actually consider checking that out as well. I hope that this video was indeed helpful to you and can help you kind of reconceptualize how you might want to think about using the course and exam description. You can mix your units. You can let your units flow into one another, and I hope that gives you some confidence for the upcoming year. One other thing, we have some links in our description down below to some AP resources from Applied Practice, and from Perfection Learning, and other things like that. So you're going to want to check those out. Parlay Ideas. .com is also an excellent site and an excellent resource for your classroom, so please make sure that you check those out as well. And until next time, when we have another question that I see popping up, I'll see you then.